How did the quiet black kid bring the school's worst bully to his knees? And what will he do next? The school bullies had no idea they had just messed with the son of a ghost, a man who controlled the city from the shadows, feared by both criminals and law enforcement alike. They thought they could humiliate anyone without consequences. How wrong they were. When they chose Adrian Carter as their target, they didn't realize his father, Victor Carter, was a name whispered in fear across the underworld. The boy's silence wasn't fear, it was discipline, learned at the dinner table of one of the most dangerous men in the country. Now, as the leader of the bullies knocked Adrian's books to the ground for the third time that week, the heir to an empire decided it was time for a lesson. A lesson that Jason Wilcox and his friends would never forget, not even in the nightmares that would haunt them for years. That Adrian's first day at Crestwood Academy seemed normal enough. Crowded hallways, curious stares, the smell of new books and polished floors. He kept his gaze low, his posture relaxed. His father's instructions were clear. Stay invisible. Just another student. Easier said than done when you'd spent your life watching men twice your size bow in submission before your father. Victor Carter had enrolled Adrian in an elite school after the Boston incident. You need to learn how to live in the normal world, his father had said, his voice calm yet commanding. No privileges. No connections. No last name. For 3 days it worked. No one paid attention to the quiet boy with sharp eyes and a composed demeanor. Until Jason Wilcox and his friends noticed him. Adrian was in the library when it started. Hey, new kid. You're in my seat. Jason stood over him, tall, blonde, reeking of entitlement. The kind that came from generational wealth and parents who bought school buildings just to keep their sons out of trouble. His friends, Blake, Ryan, and Chad, formed a semicircle around Adrian that he glanced at the empty tables around him. I don't see your name on it. Silence. No one spoke to Jason Wilcox like that. What's that accent? Brooklyn. Jason smirked. Let me guess, scholarship kid? Charity case. Adrian calmly closed his book. It wasn't worth it. He stood, prepared to walk away. Jason's hand landed on his shoulder. I'm not done talking to you. A flicker of something unreadable passed through Adrian's eyes. Cold, calculating. Jason hesitated, but arrogance quickly drowned out his instincts. What's a nobody like you gonna do? Adrian said nothing. He simply walked away, leaving Jason and his crew snickering behind him. But that night, as he sat at the dinner table in the Carter estate, his father studied him with sharp, knowing eyes. Something wrong at school? Victor Carter asked, cutting his steak methodically. Adrian hesitated. In their world, complaining was weakness. Nothing I can't handle. Victor set down his knife, his gaze unyielding. The truth, Adrian. Just some kids. Nothing important. Names. Adrian shook his head. Dad, you told me to handle my own problems. A small smile tugged at Victor's lips. Yes, I did. He leaned back in his chair. And what do I always say? Adrian met his father's eyes. Respect isn't asked for, Victor smirked. It's earned. The next day, it escalated. Jason and his friends accidentally bumped into Adrian, knocking his books down. In gym class, they accidentally hit him in the head with a basketball. At lunch, they accidentally spilled his tray, and Adrian? He did nothing. He didn't react. He didn't complain. His unnatural calm only fueled Jason's frustration. What's wrong with you? Jason sneered, cornering him after the last class. Are you mute? Adrian simply looked at him. No fear. No anger. Just quiet, calculated observation. Like a scientist studying a bug under a microscope. Jason grinned at his friends. I think we need to give our new friend a proper welcome. Tomorrow after school. Behind the gym, Adrian walked home in silence, but far from the bully's eyes, his face changed. The mask of indifference faded into something colder, more calculated. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Ethan, I need information. The next morning, Crestwood Academy felt different. Adrian walked as calmly as ever, but his eyes held something new. Ethan, his father's head of security, had delivered. Overnight, an email arrived with everything Adrian needed. Jason Wilcox and his friends' home addresses, family histories, academic records, secrets. Knowledge is power, his father always said. Adrian stepped into chemistry class and took his seat. Jason and his crew snickered at the back. A folded note landed on his desk. He didn't need to open it to know what it said. More threats, more insults. He slipped it into his pocket. "Mr. Wilcox," the teacher interrupted. "Do you have something to add to the lesson, aside from passing notes?" Laughter rippled through the classroom. Jason turned red, glaring at Adrian. "Did I tee the next break?" Blake leaned against Adrian's locker. "Jason wants to remind you," he said with a smirk, "that after school, we'll be finishing our conversation. Don't make us come looking for you." Adrian nodded. No reaction. Blake frowned. "No begging? No excuses." "Well, good," he muttered, walking away, unsettled. During history class, Adrian sat next to Leah Torres, a girl with violet streaks in her dark hair. She always carried a camera and seemed to exist on the edge of the school's social circles. "You know they're planning something, right?" she whispered. Adrian smirked. "I heard." "You shouldn't go," she insisted. "The last guy they did this to had to transfer schools. This is different." "How?" Adrian just smiled and turned back to the teacher. For the first time since arriving at Crestwood, he felt relaxed. This was familiar territory, dangerous situations, risk assessment, planning. That he understood. At lunch, instead of sitting alone, Adrian walked straight to the center table, the one where Jason and his friends ruled. "Can I sit here?" he asked, interrupting their conversation about the upcoming football game. Silence. Dozens of eyes turned to watch. Jason raised an eyebrow. "Did you hit your head or something?" Adrian set his tray down. "I just wanted to confirm our appointment." Jason smirked. "Look at that." The kid finally grew a backbone. Adrian tilted his head. "It's not courage." Something in his voice made Jason stop laughing. "It's just that now. I know exactly who you are." With that, Adrian walked away, leaving an eerie silence behind him. Rumors spread like wildfire. The new kid had just challenged Jason Wilcox, and the entire school was waiting to see what happened next. Adrian Carter arrived exactly 5 minutes after the scheduled time, not too early to seem eager, nor too late to seem scared. Behind the gym, a semicircle of students had already gathered, with Jason Wilcox and his 3 friends at the center. Out of the corner of his eye, Adrian spotted Leah Torres, hidden behind a tree, discreetly pointing her camera at the scene. "You thought I'd back down?" Jason smirked as Adrian stepped into the circle. "And miss all this attention?" Adrian replied, scanning his surroundings. "You even gathered an audience." Jason's smirk wavered for a split second. His victims didn't usually talk back like this. "You know why you're here, right?" Chad stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "You need to learn your place in this school." Adrian nodded as if considering the idea. "My place," he repeated, stepping forward. Chad flinched instinctively. "It's funny you mention that, because I spent all night thinking about places. And yours." Jason's face turned pale, as if he had seen a ghost. "You're lying," he whispered, but his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Adrian smirked and pulled out his phone. On the screen was an official FBI document, dated the previous week, detailing an investigation into tax fraud against Richard Wilcox, Jason's father. Adrian tilted the phone slightly so only Jason could see it. How did you get this?" Jason stammered, his confidence crumbling. "The question isn't how I got it," Adrian replied, putting the phone away. "The question is, what happens now?" The crowd watched in fascination. No one could hear what Adrian and Jason were saying, but the shift in Jason's demeanor was obvious. The school bully was shaking. Who are you?" Jason barely managed to whisper. Adrian took a step closer, his voice low enough for only Jason to hear. "My name is Adrian Carter. My father is Victor Carter." The effect was immediate. Jason recoiled as if struck by lightning. The name Carter was well known, even in privileged circles like Westlock Prep. Victor Carter, a mysterious businessman with connections across the city. Rumors of his true dealings were the stuff of urban legend. That's not possible," Jason stuttered, glancing around as if looking for an escape. "Let's get a few things straight," Adrian continued, his voice now perfectly calm. "I came to this school to study, not to cause trouble. My father wants me to have a normal education, normal friends, a normal life." He paused, locking eyes with Jason. "You've made that very difficult." Blake, Chad, and Ryan stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening to their leader. Jason had always been untouchable, invincible. Now, he looked like a cornered animal. "What do you want?" Jason finally asked. Adrian glanced at the other 3 bullies, then at the crowd surrounding them. I want you to tell the truth. Right here. Right now. In front of everyone. The truth about what? Jason scoffed, trying to regain control. About why you do this. Why you pick on weaker students. Why you need to humiliate others to feel important. Jason looked at his friends, then at the spectators. The humiliation he had planned for Adrian was now turning against him. I don't know what you're talking about. He tried one last time. Adrian sighed, as if disappointed. All right. I guess I'll have to show them. He pulled out his phone again. I have some interesting videos here. Blake cheating on exams. Chad selling his mom's medication to freshmen. Ryan bullying that 8th grader until he transferred schools. Adrian turned to Jason. And you, Jason? Well, your collection is special. Jason's face drained of color. There was no way Adrian could have all that information. No way, unless my father always said information is the most powerful weapon, Adrian continued, as if reading Jason's thoughts. And you? You're predictable. Leah, still hidden, filmed everything. The bullies' shifting expressions, the silent crowd, and Adrian, who had somehow turned the situation on its head. I'll ask one last time, Adrian said, voice like steel. Are you telling the truth, or should I show them? Jason hesitated, then finally admitted, I do it because it's the only way I feel in control. My father, he's a tyrant. His voice cracked. Nothing I do is good enough, so I take it out on others. The silence was heavy. One by one, the others spoke. Blake, desperate to fit in. Chad, struggling with a broken home. Ryan, too overwhelmed to speak. Adrian sighed. You're not so different from the people you hurt. As the crowd dispersed, Adrian stepped closer. This stops now. Not just with me, with everyone. I'll be watching. Jason nodded, knowing this wasn't a threat. It was reality. And if you ever need to talk, Adrian added, I'm here. The next day, Westlock Prep felt different. Whispers filled the halls. Some called Adrian a spy, others the son of a crime lord. You're the most talked about person in school, Leah said, studying him. People believe what they want, Adrian replied. Math Marcus, a frequent target, chose to sit beside him. At lunch, Adrian found Jason alone, his old friends avoiding him. You don't have to do this, Jason muttered. I'm not here to gloat, Adrian said. I'm here because I think you need a friend. Adrian remained calm as he approached the back of the gym, where a crowd had gathered. Confrontations like this were rare at West LAC, but Jason Wilcox had protection. His father was the school's biggest donor. Jason smirked as Adrian stepped into the circle. You really thought I'd back down? Adrian scanned the crowd. And miss all this attention? You even gathered an audience. Jason's confidence faltered for a moment. His victims didn't usually talk back. Chad stepped forward. You need to learn your place. Adrian tilted his head. Funny, I was thinking about places including yours. He pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward Jason. A confidential FBI report on Jason's father. Jason's face paled. How did you? The real question, Adrian said, is what happens next. The crowd couldn't hear their conversation, but Jason's fear was obvious. His once arrogant posture crumbled. Who are you? Jason whispered. Adrian stepped closer. My name is Adrian Carter. My father is Victor Carter. Jason staggered back. Even in elite circles, Victor Carter's name carried weight. Whispers of his influence spread through the school, though no one knew the full truth. I came here to study, Adrian continued. Not to deal with your nonsense. His voice dropped lower. And you've made that very difficult. Jason's friends, Blake, Chad, and Ryan, stood frozen. Their untouchable leader was unraveling. What do you want? Jason asked. Adrian pulled out his phone again. Blake cheating on exams, Chad selling stolen medicine, Ryan bullying a kid until he transferred. And you, Jason, your collection is special. Jason's breath hitched. Adrian had too much information. Unless... My father always says information is the most powerful weapon, Adrian said. And you all were predictable. Leah, hidden behind a tree, recorded everything that Adrian's voice cut through the silence. Are you going to tell them the truth, or should I? Jason swallowed hard, looking at his friends, the crowd, Then Adrian. He had no way out. I do it because, Jason's voice trembled. Because it's the only way I know how to have control. My father, he's a tyrant. Adrian nodded. He breaks you down, so you break others down. Tears welled in Jason's eyes. Nothing I do is ever good enough. So, I take it out on others. Silence. No one expected this confession. Adrian turned to the others. And you? Blake spoke first. I just wanted to belong. My parents keep moving. I've never had real friends. Chad stared at the ground. My family is falling apart. I needed control over something. Ryan said nothing, but his expression spoke volumes. You're not so different from the people you hurt, Adrian said. The crowd slowly dispersed. No punches were thrown, yet it was the most intense fight West LAC had ever seen. Adrian leaned in. This stops now. Not just with me, but with everyone. I'm watching. Jason nodded. And if you ever need to talk, Adrian added, I'm available. The next day, the school felt different. No whispers, no shoves. You're the most talked about person, Leah told Adrian at lunch. Some think you're a spy. Others think your father runs the East Coast. Adrian smirked. People believe what they want. Jason sat alone, his former friends scattered. Adrian joined him. You don't have to do this, Jason muttered. You already won. I'm not here to rub it in. That night, Adrian's father entered his room. I heard about your situation at school. How do you always know? Victor smirked. It's my job. He studied Adrian. You used intelligence, not force. I'm proud. Adrian blinked. His father rarely said that. But, Victor added, what did you say about our family? I let them draw their own conclusions. Victor nodded. Sometimes, reputation is more powerful than reality. He stood to leave. By the way, I called Richard Wilcox. Offered my lawyers for his case. Adrian's eyes widened. Why? Every family deserves a second chance, Victor said. And it's always good to have people in your debt.